Hi. This is great. It's great to be back. We did show Within Reach movie. This is the project that I've been a part of for many years now. And my name's Amanda, and I had the unique experience of just bringing it a little more locally to the United States, spending 2 years on a bicycle, traveling around the U.S. and visiting 100 sustainable communities. And that journey took place from 2008 to 2010, so it took about 2 years of my life. And I thought when I first left my corporate job and sold my house and car and decided to make this shift, I thought, oh, I'm taking a year off to go research and do some exploration and maybe make some cool YouTube videos or something. And it changed everything. So I resonate with so much of what Karen said, and especially the part about being in a journey toward awakening, and awakening on so many levels to what's possible in our culture when we actually do engage in community and for the purpose ultimately of creating more regenerative societies and waking each other up and waking up together. And I went out really thinking, oh, I'm going to go look at sustainability and what are people doing to live more sustainably, and that's largely what the film shows. There's examples of co-ops and co-housing communities and eco-villages and transition towns, and this other model called Green Town, where disaster communities come together and create more sustainable ways of living together. And also a little bit about spiritual communities in there. So it really explores all the different models for how this is happening in our culture, and sheds light on what to me was totally unseen. I mean, I didn't know Dancing Rabbit existed when I left on the bike tour, and now I live there. So, and I didn't know about Oroville. I didn't know about any of this. So there's a lot of that just awareness of what's possible, but through engaging with hundreds and hundreds of people who had said, yes, I'm going to change the way I play the game, as Karen would say. Like, I'm going to create a new story for myself, my family, in my community. Through that process of just hearing over and over all the people making that change, it ultimately inspired me to totally transition my life. And so the journey in the film ends at Hummingbird Community in northern New Mexico. So that's out of the 100 communities, that's the community that I said I want to go live there and spend more than 2 weeks with a video camera. And spent 18 months there. And it was a deeply restful experience. It's a community in the northern New Mexico mountains. And it's a spiritual community and non-dogmatic. Everyone has their own spiritual practice, but it's very really supported to go inward, and also to what I describe it as, when I'm walking down the path at Hummingbird and I crossed paths with another member of the community, I'm trusting that person is kind of looking for the goodness in me, or God, or whatever you want to say. There's that recognition of, well, I'm making an effort to just trust that person is good, ultimately, inherently good, and so it was a deeply connected place to land and ultimately comb through 1,000 hours of footage from visiting these 100 communities and sort of come out with enough footage to turn over to a company that made the film. And then after that experience, I moved to Dancing Rabbit Eco Village, where I've been living for just over 2 years, and I do a fair amount of traveling to show the film. So the invitation here is we're not going to show the film tonight, and of course it's a 90-minute docudrama is what it ended up being. There already was a series of films called Visions of Utopia, which documents communities, like profiles about 20 different communities. I highly recommend it because it's a deep dive into these 20 communities, and so we didn't want to recreate that kind of film. It's more of an adventure film, and it's an invitation to people who don't really understand about intentional community, or maybe have never heard of it, like I hadn't, to see the breadth of what's possible and what's already underway in our country, and it sort of sheds light on this unseen realm, this less documented part of our culture. So the invitation, it's a film about community, made by communities ultimately, because everybody said yes to me putting a camera in their face, me and my former partner, and we literally got about 600 interviews. So there's a research project in there somewhere that I haven't quite delved into yet. And then it was funded by community on Kickstarter, and now it's being distributed by community. So there's an invitation to, if you want to catalyze this discussion within your own household or neighborhood or community, who's part of community here? I bet everybody actually would raise their hand. You know, no one here lives in a cave, I don't think. I mean, there may be. I wouldn't put it past Berkeley to have like some really cool cave somewhere, but.
Houseboats.
What's that?
Houseboats.
Houseboats, there you go. And, you know, most of us live amidst one another, and so we're part of community. And the film, the aha moment that I experienced in journeying around the country was community is right where you are, and let's build it where we are. And sort of my vision of utopia, taking the eco-village research Karen's done into deep consideration, in the way that Tony is, you know, devoted 16 plus years of his life, and many eco-villagers, is like, we have every town, every bioregion has elementary schools and a city hall and a library and all these resources, these commons, right? These are things that we all share, we all have access to. And I'd love to see eco-villages, every bioregion have an eco-village that's a living, learning experiment and a center that we can all go to learn beekeeping and conscious communication skills and consensus decision making, or other ways of making decisions together, and, you know, rainwater catchment and all of those things that eco-villagers are doing. They're engaging in the experiments, and so I think that's my vision of utopia, is to see just eco-villages sprouting up everywhere, and not assuming we're all going to go live in them, but that we can stay where we are and actually transform ourselves and our existing neighborhoods, using some of the principles that are being tapped into and really experimented with there. What else is there to say? I haven't honed the pictures to 300, but there's a lot more than that through the website, and there's resources on the bike journey page about, you know, what did we bring on the bike tour, and we're going to open up for a panel discussion after. But spending 2 years on a bicycle was an experiment in and of itself, just, you know, living on the road and living with only what I could bring with me on a bike. We didn't have a sag wagon or anything. It was just, here's my whole existence right here. And what a deep experiment. Now I live in 200 square foot bedroom essentially with 2 other people, and have a cooperative kitchen that I eat with, you know, 6 others and a child. And so I get to cook 1 day a week, and every other day I get to walk in and there's amazing food prepared by one of my neighbors, and I'm part of the gluten-free vegetarian Whole Foods co-op. So I noticed at Dancing Rabbit, one of the observations I had was we kind of spend the most time with people who have the same dietary preferences as us. So that was kind of interesting. And you know, and I use no flush toilets when I'm home, and so visiting the Bay for a few weeks, it's like, how can we adapt some of those principles here? Car sharing. Tony's going to get way more into what Dancing Rabbit is doing. That's just really, really unique from my experience of visiting all these places. And I'd love to see it not be so unique, that we're all actually able to try these things out with confidence and support each other, and testing our boundaries and our edges with these things, and watch out, be ready to transform from the inside out, and that's certainly what happened to me. And one of my favorite lines ever is, I think Eris Weaver said this, but many people say this, that community is actually it's a lifelong personal growth workshop. So and it doesn't cost that much.
Just your whole life.
Yeah, just your whole life. So I think I feel good for now, and I'm excited about you all having the opportunity to experience a little bit of what community is like tonight through Place hosting and us having the shared meal, and we may even sing later. So.